Should we start our lesson? First things first, if y'all don't mind, you might want a pen and paper. Do we have our pens and papers? Do we have our iPads? Do we have our glasses on so that we can see everything that we're writing down? Are we all ready to go? First of all, I have to do my disclaimers. Okay. I am just a girl. I am not a dermatologist and I am not an esthetician. We are not these things. I'm just kind of like your internet big sister. Okay, I'm here to give very general advice to people with very mild skin concerns or people that just want to feel a little bit better about their skincare routine. We're keeping all of this in mind, but we're going to start super, super basic. And we are going to learn how to determine our skin type. Okay. I think of skin type kind of like a spectrum. Let's draw it like this. On one end of the spectrum, we have oily skin. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have dry skin. When we're on either end of this spectrum is typically when issues start to arise in our skin. These are kind of the things that we would like to treat. But then right in the middle of being oily or being dry is normal skin. People with normal skin wash their face and they feel like their skin feels fine. It doesn't feel tight. It doesn't feel greasy. It just feels normal. They have minimal skin concerns, so minimal breakouts. Someone with normal skin might have a breakout from time to time, but it's typically not something that is like chronic. This is like what everybody wants, okay? When we're doing our skincare, like we are trying to get to this point. Oily people tend to be younger. And then people with dry skin tend to be a little bit more mature. That doesn't mean all the time. There are plenty of young people that have dry skin, and there are plenty of older people who have oily skin. We can kind of think about the way that our skin changes as we get older and older. We're naturally going to lose some of these oils. I actually think that oily skin can be a bit of a benefit, all right? Because the oils that your skin naturally produce, they help support your skin barrier, okay? Having a strong skin barrier is fundamental to having healthy skin throughout your life. And so if you are naturally producing oil and it's not a problem, maybe you're sitting like right about here. That's actually not a bad thing if you ask me. I would not like try to zap all your oil production entirely. A little bit of it is a good thing. But when we're all the way up here on this end of things, we're gonna have acne. Acne is typically associated with oily skin. This kind of acne is going to be like whiteheads and blackheads. Okay, so this is where we're gonna have some oily skin. Typically, younger people and teens will struggle the most, but that's not all the time. Also, dietary issues and environmental issues can cause this as well. Things like excessive stress, things like eating foods that you have an intolerance to. So oiliness can also be caused by different like environmental stressors as well. Remember, if we're about here, it's not so much a bad thing. If we're all the way up here, I don't know, maybe we want to start getting it under control. But if you're like oily, normal, I'm like, girl, all right, that's going to be fine. You're probably going to age out of it. And one day you're going to be missing when you had a little bit of oil. Okay, now for dry skin, okay, people with dry skin have disrupted barriers. Think about your skin barrier like a sheet of armor on your face, and everything that you do in life, every germ that gets on your skin, the barrier, they're like, hey, stop it. You can't get in here. This is like our first line of defense for any sort of skin concerns. Dry people in particular have issues with their barrier. I feel like this is a little bit easier to fix than this, okay? People with disrupted barriers will have sensitive skin. So you'll feel that like stinging sensation. We use these like bucket words like oily and normal and dry, but what I want y'all to understand is that there's actually like multiple levels to this. We typically fall somewhere along the spectrum. We're not this and we're not that, but if we can understand the root cause of our issue, then we can make smarter choices about the products that we buy and apply to our face. Another things that we will notice with dry skin, fine lines. Typically, as we get older, our skin becomes more mature and it becomes drier. it's going to be easier for fine lines to start to creep into our skin, okay? But fine lines, we can improve the situation there. And we can start to treat the fine lines before they turn into a deep set wrinkles. But this is a symptom of drier skin. You'll also have flaky patches. I typically get flaky patches around my nose, right here, and then sometimes around my eyes. And instead of having acne like whiteheads and blackheads, instead, these people are gonna have texture. Skin that just kind of looks a little bit clogged and a little bit bumpy, but it's gonna be more like a bunch of small bumps instead of a few larger bumps. I wanna start talking about some skincare ingredients. Let's talk about just actives in general, okay? What is an active? An active is something that actively changes your skin. It has been clinically proven to stimulate a response in your skin. There are a whole bunch of actives, and we can start with, I think, the most famous, which is retinol. Retinol is like one of the only clinically proven ingredients that actually prevents aging. It increases the cell turnover. It stimulates your collagen. So retinol, there are a whole bunch of different kinds, okay? And we're gonna do our little spectrum. These are mild, and the ones down here are going to be intense. All right, up here, it's retinol. They're retinol esters is what they're called. But this is gonna be, anytime you see retinol with a Y, this is going to be the most mild form of retinol. After that, you have a regular old retinol, kind of like the gold standard. Retinaldehyde is going to be a little bit more intense from there. We have something called HPR, I think it's typically abbreviated, hydroxypinacolone retinoate. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit stronger than our retinaldehydes. After that is adapalene gel. This is probably like the highest concentration of retinol that you can get at a store without a prescription. After that is tretinoin, which you're going to need a prescription for. And then we also have after that something called tazarotene. And this is something that you also need a prescription for. And this is going to be for something like really severe acne or psoriasis. So this is like our first categories of actives is retinols. And then also in this family of actives, we have exfoliants, okay? There are like, in my mind, kind of like three main exfoliants that you're gonna see. You have AHAs, BHAs, and then sometimes you might find a PHA. There's more, but I feel like this is kind of like our core three. So AHAs are going to be things that work on the surface of your skin and they help your skin naturally turn over, similar to retinol. So since it works similarly to retinol, this is also going to be good for aging, okay? Some that I can think of off the top of my head are lactic acid and glycolic acid. And your skin might really, really like one of them, or it might like the other one. So if you don't like one of them, just try a different one. BHA, you can think of these as going deeper. So this is going to be good for pores and breakouts. And then PHAs are going to do really similar things that AHAs and BHAs are going to do, but these are going to be great for sensitive skin. They're much lighter, they're not as intense, and this is going to be good for someone who has dry, flaky patches that they don't want to make worse. So if you're like, I have some dryness, and AHA or BHA might make things even worse. A PHA is going to be sensitive enough to kind of like slough off those cells. Okay, up next in our actives category are brighteners. Now, these are not something that is going to change your skin tone, but these are going to be things that help kind of like even out your skin tone. So if you have sunspots or acne spots or just hyperpigmentation, these are things that'll help with that. The most famous one, most common one is vitamin C. Vitamin C is a tricky one because it's very, very unstable. It cannot be in a clear bottle where the sun can get to it. Okay, at that point, it's like, it's unstable. It's not going to work anymore. Remember, everyone, vitamin C, no with retinol, okay? We ain't going to do it. So if you wanted to incorporate vitamin C and or retinol, first of all, never apply retinol during the day. Only put it on at night because it is going to make your skin very sensitive to the sun. Nighttime only. Nighttime only, okay? There are vitamin C alternatives. My favorite one is from Caudalie, Vino Perfect, and that one you can use with retinol. Another one that I feel like is worth mentioning here is azelaic acid is another brightener that you can look for. I feel like this one is like pretty chill and pretty good and not something that you have to worry too much about. And you can mix this one with retinol and it's not going to be an issue. But yeah, also things that are like, sometimes you'll hear antioxidants. These are going to be much more gentle in terms of actives. This is going to be like our most intense active. These are a little bit less intense. And then these ones are a little bit less after that. All right, so we can kind of think about that when we're building out a routine about what products we might want to pair together. We also have barrier repair. I consider barrier repair to be an active thing. You're repairing your barrier. For these, niacinamide is one of the most popular ones. This is going to regulate your sebum production. So how much oil your skin is producing, it's going to bring it to a more even state. It's going to take you from being way up here to down here. Also, one of my favorite ingredients ever, PDRN. So when you think about barrier repair, you're not going to overdo these actives the way that you could overdo a retinol. You could totally overdo a retinol. You could really overdo an exfoliant. You might maybe overdo a brightener, but a PDRN, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine to use that every single day. Niacinamide is actually something that you could potentially overdo if you have multiple products. The problem with niacinamide is they put it in everything, okay? They put it in your toner. They put it in your moisturizer, they put it in your serum, and then they put it in your concealer, and then they put it in your moisturizer, and then they put it in your foundation, and now all of a sudden you have so much niacinamide on your face that your skin freaks out. The most important thing for barrier repair, in my opinion, is ceramides. That's literally what your skin barrier is made out of. Ceramides. I feel like this is a pretty good landing point to stop talking about actives. Really quick, let's talk about supporting ingredients. So some supporting ingredients might be hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is one of the most well-tolerated skincare ingredients on the market. And then peptides. You see anything advertised with peptides on it, that's a great thing to add in as well. That is going to be very well tolerated. Oh wait, I had a cheat sheet for you guys. I had a cheat sheet. If your concern is aging, wrinkles, you are going to want to focus on retinol, peptides, vitamin C, PDRN, and then anything moisturizing. If your concern is acne, you're oily, you're going to want to focus on BHAs, niacinamide, and I would definitely recommend an azelaic acid. For dryness, you're going to do this. You're going to do hyaluronic acid, ceramides. You're going to go hard on ceramides. Maybe a lactic acid. Gently. Very, very gently. Not all the time. Maybe a lactic. Could be nice here. Just to help kind of like fluff off some of that dead skin. All right. If you have dullness, dark spots, you're going to use vitamin C, AHAs, niacinamide, all right? Those things are all great. And then if you have sensitive, damaged skin, you're gonna use PDRN, ceramides, and peptides. All of these should be supported by barrier restoring steps. Okay, let's talk about the barrier. Your barrier does two important things. It keeps water in and it keeps the nasties out. So what disrupts it? How did I screw up my barrier? How did I get here to a screwed up barrier? It could be harsh cleansing. We also have environmental factors. Also, overwashing, skipping moisturizer, stress, poor sleep, diet, unfortunately, genetics, and then also age. Okay, so these are some things that can mess up your barrier. These are things that we want to avoid when we're taking care of our barrier. How do I know that my barrier is broken? Okay, you're gonna have redness, you're gonna have inflammation, it's gonna feel tight, especially after you wash your face. You might have flaking, you might have peeling, your skin might feel rough, you might have some texture. It will be dull. So you won't have that dewy glow. You also might have like a grayish tone to your skin. You might like look kind of sick. You will have stinging or burning with skincare products, even skincare products that are meant to help your barrier. You might have breakouts. And we also, did I put dry? Yeah, let's just put dry. I would say if you have 3 or more of these things, we most definitely have a damaged skin barrier. I want you to think of like a damaged skin barrier like a wound. You would never go dump acid on a wound. You know what I mean? You would nurture it. You would put healing ingredients on it. You would do things to, you know, take care of it. You wouldn't just put anything on top of a wound, would you? Right? So we need to nurture our barrier and not just kind of like keep on fighting with fire. So when we have a damaged skin barrier, what do I do, bestie? You're going to stop everything. Everything that you are currently doing, you stop doing it. Cut back, strip back immediately. No retinol, no AHAs, no BHAs, okay? No vitamin C, nothing, okay? You're going to stop. You are going to focus on a gentle cleanser and a restoring moisturizer. And I'm talking like, this is like, oh my God, my skin is really bad. If you're doing a whole bunch of different stuff to try and help your skin, getting rid of all of these things and just focusing on this, and this is going to go a long way. And then you're also going to use an SPF every single day, multiple times a day. If you're not already doing this, then that is like step number 1. If you take anything from this stream today, please use an SPF. Now, after we have determined these things are all good to go, we have our gentle cleanser, a restoring moisturizer, and an SPF. Then maybe we start incorporating some barrier loving ingredients. Remember, these are things like niacinamide, ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids. Like linoleic is a common one that you'll see. Okay. So these are going to be like barrier healing ingredients. So maybe after like a couple weeks, maybe a month of just doing this, and you're like, okay, I feel like I'm starting to reset. I'm going to keep on healing my barrier for maybe another month, at least another few weeks before we go back and start working in some retinol, before we start working in some exfoliants. Okay. So once we have healed our barrier, hotties, the entire stream has led to this moment right here, where we are going to talk about my favorite thing in skincare, skin cycling. This is the answer. This is how you have it all. This is how you have a healthy barrier, how you incorporate your anti-aging products, how you incorporate your exfoliants without overdoing it and without messing up your face. Skin cycling is going to look different for every single person, which is why it's so important to know where we fall on the spectrum and the types of acne that we have, the different ingredients that we might want to work in based on our goals. So remember, we have our different concerns. These are the things that we are going to cycle. So our cleanser, our moisturizer, our eye cream, our toner, we're not going to cycle those. Those are going to stay the same. It is these actives that are going to be treating our specific concerns that we're going to cycle. Let's go ahead and just start with an example of me, okay? I have a 3-night skin cycle routine. So on night 1, I do retinol. I like to start with what in my mind is the most intense of the actives that I use. Because if after night 1, my skin completely freaked out from that retinol, I don't have to go to night 2. I can stop and I can assess all of these things that might be wrong with my barrier, and I can take a break and I can go back to just gentle cleanser, restoring moisturizer, and SPF. So I start with the most intense thing first. And so then on night 2, I do a little exfoliant. This is also really great if my skin is kind of like flaky because of the retinol. I can like exfoliate it off really quick. And then on night 3, I have a recovery night. And on this night, I'm just focusing on products that are restorative to my barrier. Okay, so now what does this look like? So I'm gonna start by washing my face. You don't have to use 2 cleansers. I use 2 cleansers because I like to. Okay, to start off, I use the Anua Heartleaf Pore Control Cleansing Oil. I love this. This is my favorite oil cleanser. And then I use the Matcha Hemp Hydrating Cleanser. Those are my 2 cleansers. And then I tone. My favorite toner is the Heartleaf Hyaluron from Anua. This is a hyaluronic acid based toner, and it is a soothing toner. It says it is good for everyday use, and I love this stuff, okay? It works really good for my skin. I don't consider this an active. I consider this a supporting ingredient, okay? I use the Prequel Moisturizing Serum, okay? So I'm using a moisturizer. And then if I use retinol, I let my skin dry. Retinol likes dry skin best. So what I will do is I will stop my skincare routine and I'll brush my teeth. I'll floss. I'll do a little mouthwash. I'll maybe put some lotion on my body. I'll go change into my pajamas. I'll go make a cup of tea. Okay, I'll go have a snack and then I'll come back and I'll do this, okay? Don't put this directly on top of your toner or your moisturizing ingredients. Let your skin dry for a sec, okay? And then after the retinol, I'll put on my eye cream. I like this one from Haru Haru Wonder. I also like this one from Axis Y, the vegan collagen eye serum. And then I go in with my moisturizer. Because I just use retinol, I'm gonna go in with my most barrier restorative moisturizer, which is from Rhode. If you have really, really dry skin, maybe you put the Aquaphor on top of it. So that would be my night 1. Night 2 is exactly the same. I use my cleansers, I use my toner, and then I use my exfoliant. This is the exfoliant that I like. It's the Riedel Shot. It's so good at retexturizing. If I have any breakouts or pimples or clogged pores, I'll put on some of my Paula's Choice BHA exfoliant after that. And then I go in with my eye creams. And then because I didn't use a super, super intense something like a retinol, I used a more chill active, if that makes sense. I like to use my Medicube moisturizer on this night. And then on my recovery night, I do the exact same cleansers. I do the exact same toner. I do my hydrating, barrier repairing. I do my eye cream. And then I assess my skin and I say, do I want a heavier moisturizer or do I want a lighter moisturizer? And I will mix it up depending on how my skin looks at that given moment. I don't worry too much about picking the perfect thing and doing it exactly the same all the time. I look at my skin and I assess and I make a choice from there. And then because it's barrier restoring night, I'll put a little Aquaphor on the places that I feel like I need it. Okay? So this is my specific skin cycle. Now, if you're someone with drier skin than me, more sensitive skin than me, your skin cycle might look like this instead. For night 1, you'll pick 1 active and then you'll do 2 nights of recovery. So you might go active, recovery, recovery before you go back to your active. You also might, if you have drier skin, you might go active, recovery, active, recovery. So you might have a 4-day cycle if that works for you. And how do you know that it's working for you? It's because your barrier is staying healthy. You're able to use these other active ingredients without destroying your barrier. Someone with oily skin might not need a recovery night. They might do active 1, active 2, and just repeat that. They might have a few different actives and maybe they go active 3. They're going 1, 2, 3, and they're going all over the place. And if that works for their skin and their barrier is undamaged, they're gonna be fine. Typically, these people with more oily skin, they can tolerate it a little bit better. So besties, that's everything that I have for you. We made it to the end of our lecture. We covered how to determine what kind of skin you have, what skin type you have. We talked about different ingredients like retinols, exfoliants, brighteners, barrier repair. We had a whole session just on the barrier. Look at how many pages we talked about our barrier. Okay, and then we talked about skin cycling. I love you guys. Bye.